The climate apocalypse has begun. The Earth is specially designed by God to operate under the influence of weather and climate. Every time there is a change in the weather and climate, the people of the Earth are at the receiving end. The slightest climatic deviation can have a massive impact on living organisms on Earth. In fact, it is proven that weather and climate variation has led to the extinction of some plant and animal species in different regions of the world. Extreme weather events cause lots of damage to various life forms on Earth. According to the National Aeronautics and Space Agency of the U.S., the average global temperature of the Earth has increased by more than 1 degree Celsius since 1980, and 2/3 of the warming has occurred since 1975. The global temperature is projected to warm further by about 1.5 degrees Celsius by 2050, and between 2 to 4 degrees Celsius by 2100. Key indicators that the world climate system is changing are increases in global land and ocean temperatures, and increases in the frequency and severity of weather conditions, such as hurricanes and cyclones, heat waves, precipitation, and cloud cover. Consequent to these changes, there is increase in wildfires, droughts, floods, sea levels, and ice melting at the polar regions of the world. Already, 2022 has brought powerful floods, terrifying wildfires, and unusually early heat waves globally, notably those in India and Pakistan, Europe, the US, and parts of East Asia. Freak hailstorms have battered Germany and Mexico City, and US forecasters expect an above-normal hurricane season. Meteorologists say that many of these events are part of a troubling trend. While 2022 is not yet the worst year on record for extreme weather, we are currently witnessing the impact of climate change and the cascading effect of one problematic weather condition influencing another. The India temperatures reached a record 49.2 degrees Celsius in May 2022. France recorded its earliest 40-degree day ever, and there are swaths of the U.S. where 100 million people have been advised to stay indoors. The National Meteorological Service for the United Kingdom reported record-breaking heat in the UK on the 19th of July 2022. Temperatures climbed over 104 degrees Fahrenheit, 40 degrees Celsius, for the first time ever recorded. Among other effects, many schools closed, doctors' offices were shut, and train services was limited for fear the tracks would buckle. This record-breaking temperature resulted in fires emerging in different parts of London. Tennis ball-sized hailstones batter western province of Alberta in Canada. What made this hailstorm unique was that it appeared suddenly with tennis ball-sized hailstones. The intense storm damaged vehicles and caused collisions. This increase in extreme weather conditions has led many to come to the conclusion that the climate apocalypse has begun. Typhoons have posed great threats to those in the temperate regions of the world in the last few decades, while those in the tropics are suffering from tropical cyclones. These strong winds are responsible for ripping out trees, destroying buildings, flooding cities, and burying villages under mudslides. These anomalies have inflicted great devastation in both economic terms and human lives. In 2013, one of the most powerful typhoons ever recorded hit the eastern Philippines with maximum sustained winds of 195 miles per hour and gusts to 235 miles per hour. According to a report by Derek Bryson Taylor, 30% of U.S. adults said they have been affected by extreme weather since 2020. Most commonly, extreme cold. Most of these respondents cited that hurricanes and winter weather such as snow, ice storms, and blizzards were the most common extreme weather events, followed by extreme heat and flood. The report also says that there have been dozens of severe weather events in the United States over the last 2 years that have each caused $1 billion or more damages according to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. About 20 of such climatic disasters were reported for 2021 and 22 for 2020. As we continue to search through meteorological and climatic data, we seem to find out that the climate is changing and having negative impact on the planet Earth. While some areas are being flooded, especially the Arctic and polar regions of the world, due to melting ice caps, Some other regions are experiencing drought and intense heat waves, especially the tropics. So, with all these climatic data analysis, can we say that the declining weather system of the world indicates a sign of the end time? Does the changing pattern of the climate and weather system communicate the fulfillment of end-time prophecy? Is God actually involved in all of these, or is man to take the full responsibility for his influence on the weather? Genesis 8:22 says, "While the earth remaineth, seed time and harvest, and cold and heat, and summer and winter, and day and night shall not cease." This passage can be literally interpreted to mean that God intended the natural cycle of things, heat and cold, to continue, and nothing special was meant to happen to the weather and climate while man exists. In other words, this passage could mean that any change in weather or climate is nothing but a natural occurrence. To support this literal interpretation of Genesis 8:22, there is scientific proof that explain that the Earth has been evolving from an ice age over a period of 4,000 years now, and that the changing weather and climatic conditions we are experiencing are not anomalies. Other scientific claims hold that climate changes are largely a result of natural cycles of cold and warm phases, which have been occurring for thousands of years. They see this pattern as nothing but a cyclic occurrence of the same phenomenon. On this note, scripturally speaking, extreme weather is not anything new, and it is not necessarily a sign of the end. Right from the Old Testament, and even in the early times, we find certain weather extremes, and they couldn't have suggested we were at the end of the world then. In the book of Genesis, when God saw the wicked of men and the violence that filled the earth, He decided to destroy the entire world with flood, and to save Noah and his family alone. In Genesis 6:17, God said, "And behold, I, even I, do bring a flood of waters upon the earth, to destroy all flesh, wherein is the breath of life, from under heaven, and everything that is in the earth shall die." This is one of the graphic examples of God using the weather to judge man's wickedness. More so, there are many other weather-related experiences God used to arrest the attention of His people. In other instances, God used drought to discipline the Israelites because of their idolatry and the worship of Baal. 1 Kings 17:1 says, "And Elijah the Tishbite, who was of the inhabitants of Gilead, said unto Ahab, As the Lord God of Israel liveth, before whom I stand, there shall not be dew nor rain these years, but according to my word." Apostle James later explains in the New Testament that God locked the heaven from giving rain to the earth. In these two scenarios, the flood and the drought, both weather extremes, God judged His people for their wickedness and idolatry. These cases had nothing to do with the end time. They were just the supernatural acts of God. In Genesis 41, Joseph experienced a drought. When Moses was warning the children of Israel about being disloyal to God, he told them the repercussions of disobedience to God's commands in Deuteronomy 28, 23 and 24, which reads, "And thy heaven that is over thy head shall be brass, and the earth that is under thee shall be iron. The Lord shall make the rain of thy land powder and dust. From heaven shall it come down upon thee, until thou be destroyed." Today, we consider thundering and lightning, vehement wind, such as typhoon or tropical cyclones, earthquakes, heat waves, and wildfires as extreme weather conditions. There are people who consider these weather events as signs of the end time. Meanwhile, some of these extreme weathers can be seen in the Old Testament. From these few biblical examples, we can see that extreme weather conditions have occurred since the Old Testament. Yes, indeed, in Matthew 24, Jesus lists several things that will happen. Matthew 24, 4 through to 8. "And Jesus answered and said to them, Take heed that no one deceives you. For many will come in my name, saying, I am the Christ, and will deceive many. And you will hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that you are not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, But the end is not yet. For nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there will be famines, pestilences, and earthquakes in various places. All these are the beginning of sorrows. Some interpreters point to every earthquake, every single natural disaster, every single political turmoil, and every newsworthy thing that happens in Israel as a sure sign that the end times are rapidly approaching. While the events may signal the approach of the last days, they are not necessarily indicators that the end times have arrived. The reason I say this: there are groups of Christians who point at some of these extreme weather conditions as the seals in Revelation chapter 6. There are some who even argue that these are the signs that the four horsemen in Revelation chapter 6 are here. There are those who even believe that all these extreme weather events are happening because the 7 trumpets are being blown. However, I assure you, my brothers and sisters, all of these extreme occurrences are not yet the doing of the 4 horsemen, or the seals, or the 7 trumpets. When the book of Revelation truly comes upon this earth, it will be nothing like the world has seen before. What we are seeing are merely the birth pains.